Hello and welcome to Everyday Tarot, your daily dive into the divine wisdom of the tarot. I'm your host, Camille A. Saunders, healer, tarot enthusiast, and your local witch next door, and today I'll be talking about tarot and the solstice. Whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or just starting to explore, this podcast offers daily insights, intuitive messages, and practical advice drawn from the cards. Each episode is designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom, find clarity in your decisions, and tap into the energy of the universe. Tune in every day, Monday through Friday, for fresh perspectives and empowering guidance from the tarot as interpreted by me. Tonight, Friday, June 20th at 5 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, I am hosting a virtual tarot card creation event. If things are feeling hard right now, maybe you could benefit from an hour dedicated to channeling your feelings into something creative. I'll give you a list of recommended supplies. We'll meet online and I'll walk you through the magical process of creating your own cards. No tarot experience necessary. The link to sign up will be in the show notes. And if you're unable to make it live, no worries. Once you register, everyone will get the replay recording as well if you're not able to make it or if that time doesn't work for you. If you love the show, the best way to support it is by listening daily, leaving a review, and subscribing or following in your favorite podcast app. If you want to support me financially to keep doing the podcast, I actually just updated the Patreon benefits to be bigger and better than ever. I'll be hosting live episodes every new moon to do a new moon collective tarot reading. If you join the lovers level of the podcast on the Patreon, you will get access to an exclusive Discord to chat with me live during the stream, and I'll pull a card for each one of my patrons in addition to the New Moon Collective spread. If you want an individual card pulled for you once a month live on the podcast, join the Everyday Tarot Patreon family at the lovers level. If you'd like to support the podcast even further, you can get a one-time individual 5-card reading in addition to all the other benefits if you join the Witch level on the Patreon. If you're local to the Greater Puget Sound area, check out the Let's Talk Tarot meetup group for the latest event postings. If you're interested in my free PDF with the 2025 5-card tarot spread I created just for you at the beginning of this year, you can get that by joining my newsletter list. My weekly newsletter always has the most up-to-date information on my upcoming events, presentations, musings, and info and photos of my day-to-day life. If you don't already know, I'm a sex and relationships therapist seeing clients virtually all over Washington State. I love working with queer, poly, and witchy clients. If you'd like to work with a therapist that doesn't judge you, is witchy just like you, and helps you learn how to deal with anxiety, chronic pain or illness, communication issues, self-advocacy, and sex, head to my website and book a free consultation now to start your journey. You can find the links for any of these offers and the show notes are on my website, CamilleASaunders.com/everydaytarot, in addition to the images of the cards I pull on each episode. So welcome to Season 10, where I'm talking all about tarot and witchcraft. If you haven't listened to my other seasons yet, you can check those out. In Season 1, I talk tarot basics. Seasons 2 and 3 were all about the major arcana. Season 4, I talked to tarot and pop culture. Season 5 was about 13 common tarot spreads. And Seasons 6, 7, 8, and 9 were about the suit of wands, pentacles, swords, and cups. So I've actually gone through all 78 cards of a traditional tarot deck. So there are episodes about all of those. And right now I'm up to Season 10, where I'm diving all into tarot and witchcraft. And today I'm talking about tarot and the solstice, mostly because tomorrow for me, and for many of you, as you're listening to this live, is the summer solstice or midsummer. Generally it happens around June 21st. Sort of slightly varies depending on the astrology, but that's sort of how it goes. And if you're in the southern hemisphere, you are entering the winter solstice or celebrating renewal. So when we think about solstices versus equinoxes, I had to sort of like wrap my head around this. So solstices and equinoxes are key astronomical events that mark the beginning of seasons. A solstice is the longest or shortest day of the year. So again, if you're in the northern hemisphere, we are entering the summer solstice, which will be the longest day of the year, meaning the most daylight hours. And if you're entering the winter solstice, then you are on the shortest day of the year, or the least amount of daylight hours, or the longest night, however you want to view it. And then an equinox is actually when the day and night times are equal length. So we have equinoxes in spring and fall as a halfway point between solstices. So So yeah, solstices are about the extremes of daylight hours, where equinoxes, probably we could have been maybe figured that out by the name of equinox, which probably means like equal, nox meaning light, I think in Latin. And so it's about equalizing day and night times of year. And I will put up an image. There's a really good image of, in the Tarot and Astrology book by Karine Kenner, that I used a lot last episode, that shows sort of like the Earth, the North Pole, the South Pole, the latitudes, longitudes, and how like how the Earth's rotation and the different aspects of it um, create the autumn, spring equinoxes and the solstices, because our Earth is rotated. Also, we're not directly like north south as a planet. We're slanted slightly, or like off kilter, and so that's part of what makes these grand swings. Yeah, so that is sort of what we're getting into today. It's probably not going to be super long, but yeah, let's talk about the summer solstice, since that's what I am entering right now, and a lot of us in the northern hemisphere are entering. It represents kind of going into true summer. In our Scandinavian places, they celebrate midsummer, which would sort of be the like pagan. Like I said about Yule for winter solstice, this is sort of a pagan celebration. But honestly, a lot of places celebrate, like, again, the longest and shortest days of the year, in different ways. So, in a book I have not talked about before, but that is well loved by me, is called The Great Work: Self-Knowledge and Healing Through the Wheel of the Year by Tiffany Lazick. I've worked my way through this book multiple times. It has something to do every day of the year, and it has journaling prompts actually for every day, and then it sort of has like themed sections. So we are entering part 7, cycle 5, which is June 21st through August 1st, which is all about shining our truth and creativity and walking your talk. So they talk about, you can go through this section if you're experiencing any of the following things, or if you're in this time of year. So it would be, yeah, it says some themes about it are early adulthood, voice and choice, fermentation, throat chakras, elementals and tarot, celebration of effort, and aether and journaling. And it says maybe you're going through difficulty sharing your thoughts and beliefs, right? This is when our throat chakra gets activated. Maybe repressed creativity, which if you are feeling that, again, please come to my tarot card creation night, or register and watch the recording later, because we're going to talk a lot about creativity, as that's literally what we're going to be doing. Maybe you're going through a sense that what you say doesn't matter, an excessive need to communicate, or a depleted sense of will or belief in the efficacy of your choices. So again, if winter solstice is the celebration of the birth of the sun, the summer solstice sees the sun coming to full strength. Again, we get the longest day of the year and the shortest night. Where I live in the Pacific Northwest, in like the Seattle area in Washington, we are entering, like, on solstice, we will have over 16 hours of daylight. It's getting to the point in the year for me, because I live fairly far north, that there's like not enough dark hours to sleep, in my opinion. And so I honestly spend a lot more time around this time of year just like outside in the garden, awake, because it's just hard to sleep when it's not dark. So again, it's the longest day of the year and the shortest night. In ancient times, this was considered midsummer, the culmination of work and effort. The wonder child, who is born in the darkest part of the year, has now grown into a strapping adult full of vigor and drive. So again, this is sort of like a metaphorical child, if we think of like sort of how the new moon and the full moon work, where the new moon we're planting seeds, we're starting things, and then at the full moon we're sort of harvesting or culminating, right? The solstice, the summer solstice, is about that culmination time of year. Or again, if you're in the winter solstice or around Yule time, like you're in that planting seeds time of year. And so the ancients were aware of the turning of the wheel. They had a festival, to, sort of remember this. The long, hot days of summer were fully embraced, knowing the movement from this point on was towards the dark, which is always interesting because, at least for me, like our climate wise, our summer does not really start until about, we don't really start getting hot consistently until July. So for me, like this sort of summer solstice is like the kickoff to summer, even though I think in a lot of places it's maybe slightly less so, or you've been having warm weather for a while, or perhaps all the time if you're close to the equator. Um, so again, the hot, full days of summer are embraced. If winter solstice holds this echo of fullness of life, born out of the dark, the summer solstice holds the echo of decrease, of death in life. Because again, once we start this point of the year, again, if you're in the northern hemisphere, the whole rest of the days until December 21st, generally, it's getting darker every day. And so even though you're at this sort of culmination point, like we're going on the downhill, as some people would view it, where you start to get sort of, especially in October, November, December, this like very dark. Again, especially where I live, we have a very few daylight hours around in December. And we start to see things through this like movement, this pinnacle, the height of perfection, right? Again, if you have kids and they're in school, they're probably out of school by now. Like we're in a very like transition time in general. The ancients saw life as a cycle, which was most acutely appreciated when one is aware of the cyclic dance of increase and decrease, and increase once again of life, death, and rebirth. At midsummer, when the heat of the sun is felt most vigorously, there is celebration for the work that has to be done. The crops have all been planted. For the most part, there's nothing to be done except pray the balance of rain from the energy drawn from the sun's strength will nourish these crops into full bounty. The young of the livestock have all been born generally in springtime and nurtured through the early months. What can be done has been done, at least for the time being. So again, you're in this sort of phase of like maintaining, watering the garden often, right? Maybe weeding or harvesting, but less so in like a planning stage, right? At this point, often again, it's like all the things are in the ground, things are happening, the livestock has been born, and again, now you're just sort of growing them up, feeding them for the rest of the year. The festivals of old were joyful. The work of the harvest was yet to come. Again, that sort of often comes towards the ends of summer or come fall, but it's just around the corner, right? We have the sense of accomplishment to fill us with pride. We are in Pride Month right now in June in the US, so that is fun. Happy Pride. But in a lot of ways, right, like depending on where you are, how witchy you are, or how seasonally you live your life, like a lot of our maybe more modern society has lost a lot of these ancient traditions of the festivals. Again, we have the like, oh, kids are out of school, like that's its own celebration in some ways. But traditionally on midsummer, again, you would sort of have these huge bonfires. In a lot of parts of Britain, wheels of straw were lit on fire, rolled down the hills. Nowadays, we celebrate with long weekends and vacations. The dog days of summer have an energy of relaxation as we rest in the knowledge that we have put in good effort. We're now able to sit for a moment, allowing the work of our accomplishments to take hold. We relish the heat of the sun, we drink cold drinks, we lose ourselves in summer movies and books. We slip away from the city bustle to spend days or weeks camping in the wilderness, being mesmerized late into the night by the dance of the campfire flames. The muscle-gripping tensions of winter's blast is a far-off memory as we feel our muscles soak up the warming rays. For many, it feels as though these days are a reward for all the hard work we've done, and they are to be thoroughly enjoyed. And in this book, they talk about the celebration of the summer solstice marks the attainment of the plateau. So again, like I said, we're in that place of like, now we maintain. We've put in great effort of achieving this like high level of things, right? Again, we've sort of put in a lot of work in the springtime, especially if you're gardening or farming or doing anything like that, right? Spring cleaning, like all those sort of like high energy things. And now we get to sort of celebrate this accomplishment of having like sowed those seeds, and now we get to just kind of watch things come to fruition. So some of the cultural archetypes of this like attainment of light, or this like the most light, we have different gods across different pantheons, maybe is the right word. So there's Aten, who's an Egyptian god, a reflection of the sun god Ra. Aten is usually depicted as a sun disk with emanating rays. There's Sekhmet, which I actually talked about in last episode because that is the goddess who is on the sun card in the Goddess of Love tarot deck by Gabriella Herstick and illustrated by Julie Popescu. So again, like if you were looking at your sun tarot cards for the solstice, right, the celebration of the sun time of year, you can check out what sort of images or symbols are on there. Sekhmet is a lion-headed sun goddess who offers strength and power. There's Helios, which is a Greek god. It's the Titan who drove his chariot across the sky, bringing the sun every day. He's eventually replaced by the Olympian Apollo. There's Hyperion, who's Greek, sometimes confused with Helios, but Hyperion was disguised as a god of watchfulness, wisdom, and light, distinguished, not disguised, as a god of watchfulness, wisdom, and light, whereas Helios was considered the incarnation of the sun. There's Apollon, Greek, or Apollo, Roman, the son of Zeus and the mortal Leto. He's the twin of Artemis, the sun to her moon. Replacing Helios as the god of the sun, Apollo is also known as the god of medicine and healing, music and poetry, flocks and herds, and oracles and prophecy. There is Aine, Ainin, I'm not quite sure, but that's Celtic, as the goddess of sun, wealth, and sovereignty. There's Arnenrod, Celtic, as a goddess of celestial rhythms and cycles who guides us to empowerment. There's Bel, that is also Celtic, as a sun god whose name means the shining one. There's Lug, or that makes me think of like the Lug Nasa celebration. It's a hero god, much loved for his success at all endeavors. There's also a Welsh counterpart, Lugh Logis, to mean the fair-haired one with the skillful hand. There's Thor, which comes from Norse tradition, is a hammer-wielding hero god known for his strength and virility. He's associated with thunder, lightning, and oak trees. And there's Sol, that is also Norse, is a sun goddess and twin to Mani, the sun to his moon. Both twins are chased by wolves, Skrull and Hati, respectively, that close in on them during eclipses. And like I said, in this book, The Wheel of the Year, it goes, you kind of have these themed sections, and then there are reflection questions in here. So the one for today, or, for June 21st, which would be the solstice, is in what ways do you restore your energy? So again, this feels very appropriate. Sign up and come to my tarot card creation event, because we're going to be talking about how this is a thing that can restore your energy, or that you can put sort of maybe your rage into as well. And the Tarot and Astrology book by Corinne Kenner. I did talk about before, so I will put the image in the podcast, like on my website and my blog, where I will have all the podcast episodes and the cards that I show. So I'll put that image up that shows sort of how the equinoxes work. And then the card associated with June 21st in general, or starts between June 21st, which just means that the first decan of Cancer astrologically falls between June 21st and July 1st, usually when the sun is between 0 and 10 degrees Cancer. And so the tarot card associated with this is the Two of Cups, which is associated with Venus and Cancer. And again, June 21st, we are entering Cancer season as well. So it says that the young lovers in the Two of Cups seem a little starstruck. It's no accident. Powerful forces have drawn them together. You have Venus, the planet of love and romance, has made her way into the nurturing sign of Cancer, playing matchmaker. The young couple in the card could very well be the adolescent version of a charioteer in training, and the girl who will someday assume the Empress's throne, which is again interesting because the chariot is, right, again, a very fiery card. The chariot is the card associated with the zodiac sign of Cancer, so the whole season of Cancer. And then you have Venus being associated with the Empress in this sort of season. Let's see. Yeah, Venus rules the fixed earth sign of Taurus. So you have this comfort and stability, partnership. I think there's often a lot of like socializing this time of year. I think of Venus also as being very embodied, like in your body, planet pleasure and attraction, which for me, when I think about summer, I'm like, ooh, swimming, being out in the sun, reading, sort of, again, sort of indulging these really enjoyable, pleasurable activities in this time of year. Let's see here. What else is interesting? Yeah, so generally the Two of Cups in tarot represents love, especially between childhood sweethearts, kindred spirits, or soulmates. Again, sort of the minor arcana version of the like twin flame soulmate kind of thing that is often depicted in the Lover's card, symbolizing equal partnership and attraction of opposites. And like I said, the first decan of Cancer usually falls between June 21st and July 1st, and the sun is between 0 and 10 degrees Cancer, which is basically what makes this time of year astrologically associated with Cancer. Again, we're entering into Cancer season, the season of the crab, and that, yeah, it's kind of how that works. So I will show, again, the Goddess of Love Sun card, and we'll talk about that. I will pull a Two of Cups to show as well, and then, yeah, I think I'm going to end there for now. We'll keep it short and sweet today. Happy solstice, whichever one you are celebrating tomorrow or today. I know I'm going to be hanging out outside a lot where I am. We have a rhubarb festival at this time of year. So I will be going to that, being outside and eating delicious rhubarb goodies with friends and family. And then, like I said, yeah, I'm going to like a solstice, sort of like witchy bonfire thing. So that's sort of the traditional thing to do on solstice, is to sort of celebrate the fiery aspect of the sun with like even more fiery aspects. Um, and so this also can be a very, like, again, creative time of year. We have a lot of energy, just again, generally, because if it is summer solstice for you, it is literally the longest day of the year. You have the most sunlight, which really does fuel us generally. Again, I get sunburned very easily, so it's a little of a double-edged sword for me, but I am awake for a lot of the day when it is very light out. Yeah, and then I'm going to pull a card. Probably, let's see which deck is calling to me right now. Ooh, I'm going to pull from the Desert Illumination Tarot deck, because I also think of this one as sort of sun related because it is a desert deck. This is by Lindsay D. Williams. I haven't pulled from this one in a while, so this will be fun. Oops, some of my cards are backwards. All right. This has very kind of fiery colors too. So let's see what the cards have to say today on this topic of, again, sort of solstice, the summer solstice energy, and the celebration of sort of the wheel of the year and the changing of time, or at least our, yeah, not really changing time, but transitioning. Okay, interesting. I pulled the Five of Jugs, which is equal to the Five of Cups traditionally. Oh, I opened right to it. A masked bandit in a long black cape stands under the night sky in the middle of a painted desert. He's surrounded by a bunch of whiskey jugs, tipped over and spilled their contents onto the sand. It is an ominous scene that is surreal and mysterious. The Five of Jugs is symbolic of lost opportunities and disappointments. In life, sometimes plans fall through or situations don't turn out exactly as you expect. Instead of dwelling on those lost moments, consider how you could learn from the experiences. You may run the risk of getting stuck in the past. Remember to try to stay present and focus from moment to moment, one day at a time. It's very easy to get anxious or stressed out from ruminating on what happened. Practice forgiveness and patience for yourself. It is the key to getting unstuck. So we're being present. We are not, getting stuck in the past. We're looking forward again, right? This is a perfect time of year to look forward as we are at the sort of like halfway point for the most part. Again, if you use the sort of a Gregorian calendar that starts in January, then we are very close to being done with Q1 and Q2, and we are about halfway through the year. So this is a very halfway card. Also, fives, right, are between ace and 10, sort of the halfway point in the sort of minor journey of the minor arcana. And fives are sort of challenging cards often. And so it sounds like we're also in this sort of like, okay, we're working on not being stuck, we're looking forward, and we're being nice to ourselves, right? Which again, I think is really important on these, when we are in these big times of transition. Like it can be fun to celebrate because it just sort of represents that like something is changing, and like it can be a lot. Again, like 16 hours of sunlight in one day is kind of a lot. Like if it was like that all the time, I would be exhausted, right? So we also get to celebrate the fact that it will change, right? Come December, I will swing the other way and we'll have almost 8 hours of daylight, and I'll sleep more, right? And I'll do a lot of indoor activities and things like that. But all right, there we go. So links for the tarot decks I talk about will always be in the show notes and on my website. If you'd like to look at them or purchase them, and thanks for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. Just as a reminder, the podcast comes out daily, Monday through Friday for all of 2025. You can email me, me@CamilleASaunders.com, with your thoughts, questions, and more, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.